This short video will be an introduction to pedigree analysis. So for humans, geneticists very frequently use a pictorial representation of inheritance of particular characteristics or traits. Often this is used to study inherited genetic conditions, and it's frequently used by people like genetic counselors. So there are a number of challenges to studying human genetics. So first of all, we can't do controlled mating, right? We're just kind of stuck with the existing families that you can find. And there's a very long generation time and small family sizes, which makes statistical analysis a little bit more difficult. So I'd like to just show an example of a pedigree, and then I'd like to go over a list of a few of the different specific cases of symbols that are used. So this is a family pedigree for 4 generations. So you can see the different generations as these Roman numerals on the side. So 4 generations, and females are shown as circles and males are shown as squares. If someone is deceased at this point, you would put a line through that individual, just like is shown here. Individuals who are affected with the trait or the disorder that is being investigated are colored in. And so these are colored in red, and you can see all of these individuals within the family show this particular trait, which is a genetic disorder called Waardenburg syndrome. When you have a marriage between 2 individuals, that would be shown as a line between those 2 peoples. If you have, for example, this woman had children with 2 different men, and so she has children with this man who is now dead, but also then 1 child with this other man, number 3 over here. Twins are indicated with these lines like this. And children are shown in the order of their birth. Individuals within 1 generation of a family are often numbered. So here you have generation 2, and you can see that individuals are numbered across 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So here is a summary of some of the symbols that are used in pedigrees. And so if you have an unaffected person, incidentally, it's just a non-colored in square or circle. If you don't specify the sex of a child or an individual, that would be represented as a diamond. Occasionally, we'll use this notation where we put a little dot in the middle of that individual that indicates that that person is definitely a carrier for the disease allele. Occasionally, you'll see a number within the individual that actually represents a very large number of individuals. So this is actually multiple children, 5 children, for example. Sometimes you'll see a little arrow with a P next to it. This is called the proband, and the proband is essentially the person who would be the individual who is coming to the attention of a geneticist. So if that family visited a genetic counselor and they created a family tree, the person who they were investigating the inheritance of would be considered the proband. There are some unusual things that you might encounter. So for example, adoption is a little bit tricky. We represent that with these brackets. And twins of different types are represented differently. So if they're definitely identical twins, you would put these diagonal lines with a little line across. Whereas if they were fraternal twins, you wouldn't put that line across. If you have what's called consanguinity, so inbreeding between related individuals, that is highlighted in pedigrees by putting a double line between the individuals of interest. Just like to mention that I realize that there are many situations that you may encounter in real life that are not listed on this particular chart, and that is something that I am interested in correcting and working on. For example, indicating how do we indicate a transgender individual or an individual who's non-binary. So the last thing I'll do is go through a few examples of common errors that students make when writing pedigrees. So one common error is if this is two parents right here, oftentimes students forget that the children need to come from both parents, not one of them. And so sometimes you might see something like this. If you see that, that's wrong. So you can't have a child that only came from the father and not the mother. So the correct way to draw that type of thing is to draw a line coming from the line between the parents. So that would be the child. Another common problem is that people put their siblings as if they are married to them. So the line between individuals is actually like a marriage or a mating. This is not the correct way to indicate that these three individuals are siblings. So rather than having that line between them, you would actually come down and you would have a line that extends over the top of them and then comes down to each one of those. Another thing I see students doing is writing them kind of upside down. So making the parents be like a child should be indicated. So if this is a child, having the parents having indicated as if the parents were siblings, kind of upside down. So that's not correct. What you want is the line between the parents, and then it comes down to the child. I encourage you all to write out a few of these, possibly write out your own family pedigree, just as a little practice to think about all the aspects that you include in these diagrams.